Ladies and gentlemen, the Brit Pack is back. Simon Head here to bring you episode number 17 of the show. And this week's one is a little bit different. That's because my good buddy Simon and Sandhu and I recorded this one live from Octagonside at UFC Fight Night in Belfast, Northern Ireland. I've spoken to my friends in the UFC's press and PR team, and they kindly arranged for Sandhu and I to be sat next to each other for the event. We recorded our instant reaction throughout a packed night of fights on a lively night at the SSE Arena. We hope you enjoy it. Just as it was the last time we recorded bits from an event, it's pretty loud, but you should be able to hear us loud and clear. Here are the best bits from the night. Check them out now.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Brit Pack is back, and we are Octagonside here in beautiful Belfast, Northern Ireland for UFC Fight Night. Mousasi versus Hall. I'm Simon Head. This is Simon and Sandhu.
I am Simon and Sandhu with my good friend Simon Head from the Brit Pack, and we are in Belfast.
It's going to be a fantastic night, guys. We're kind of running in hot. We had New York last week, no messing about, went home, washed their clothes, got repacked, and here we are in Belfast for a different kind of fight week.
It is. It's the final UFC event here in the European market for 2016. There's been some great events here that the European UFC team have put on. We're in Belfast. I'm expecting a very loud crowd, a very loud Irish, enthusiastic, positive, electric atmosphere. Not the sexiest of fight cards, but what we do have are two of the best middleweights in Mousasi and Uriah Hall in the main event, and that should be fireworks.
Yeah, Mousasi versus Hall. Is it going to be revenge, or is it going to be repeat for Uriah Hall? Can he get it done again? He's been a bit grumpy during fight week, I'm not going to lie. Mousasi's been his usual chilled out, laid back self. We've got Ross Pearson versus Stevie Ray in a co-main event, the Battle of Britain at lightweight. I know Stevie Ray's getting some extra motivation from the fact that it's England v Scotland. Ross Pearson couldn't give a stuff, he just wants to fight.
And also on the main card we've got Artem Lobov versus Teruto Ishihara. Now, this Japanese kid he's very entertaining, and he's been great value all throughout fight week. And in Artem Lobov, will we see Conor McGregor in his corner? He's supposed to be here at Fight Night. He's supposed to be here to corner his teammate Artem Lobov, and there's been rumours of Conor McGregor being here all week. Apparently he's going to be here, he's going to be in the building at the SSE, the two-weight champion of the world, Conor McGregor.
I wonder if they'll do anything, whether they'll do some sort of special announcement. It's possible. The other fight on that main card is a bit of a sleeper fight, Timothy Johnson versus Alexander Volkov. I spoke to Timothy Johnson this week. He's kind of a cool guy, you know. I think he's just enjoying the ride. I'm not sure if he quite really understands why he's as high at the card as he is, but there we go, he is.
I think you've got fighters like that scattered throughout the entire card. They're not the biggest names, but there's an opportunity here to get a win, do something spectacular, do something entertaining, get some fans, and build a following here in Europe.
And the first fight is just about to get underway. We've got Abdul Razak Al Hassan. He's in the cage in front of us now, and you can probably hear the crowd rising for Conor McGregor's training partner, Charlie Ward, who is entering the arena for the very first time for his UFC debut. He was going to fight in Albany. He's had his fight brought forward. He's now fighting Al Hassani tonight, and he's going to look to kick things off in spectacular fashion here at the SSE Arena. We will check back with you at various points throughout the night and give you our take on what's going on here on the Brit Pack as we give you the lowdown on UFC Fight Night in Belfast. Alright, we are 2 fights in at UFC Fight Night Belfast. Charlie Ward versus Abdul Razak Hassan. It did not last long with Sandhu, 53 seconds. TKO finish. Explosive way to kick things off.
Yeah, absolutely, and Hassan now has a record of 7-0, all by knockout or TKO, and they've all come within 90 seconds.
It's nuts.
That's incredible. So not a bad way to kickstart your UFC career. And then following that, we had the very first Welshman to get his hand raised in victory in Brett Johns.
Yeah, solid performance from Brett Johns against Kwan Ho Kwak. Little side note, when Kwak walked to the Brett point, he turned his back to the main stand opposite us to get the Vaseline applied, just as Conor McGregor was walking across the way,
Yeah.
and there was a huge roar from the crowd. I'm just imagining what was going through Quan Ho Quack's mind, thinking, wow, these Northern Irish fans really love me. And
It wasn't for him. It was for the like we said earlier in the night. We were expecting him. He arrived. He turned up, and it was quite the ovation and the reaction for the very first UFC simultaneous two-weight champion.
yeah, it was a great performance from Brett Johns. Ran the table, 30-27 in all three scorecards. Nice post-fight interview asking Sean Shelby something a little bit easier next time round. I don't know whether the American sense of humour will understand the sarcasm of the Welsh sense of humour, but nice little post-fight speech from him. He's off and running in his UFC career. Still undefeated, and another Brit for us Brit Pack boys to follow inside the Octagon in the months years to come.
And also, it's quite the moment. He broke down in the middle of the Octagon, just crying uncontrollably, following his post-fight interview with Dan Hardy. And then as he walked by press row, he was still crying. And I guess it just shows what it means to some fighters to be fighting in the UFC. Sometimes it's a lifelong ambition, a lifelong goal. And a lot don't get this opportunity, but for him, he's got it. And it was quite the moment for him.
It was, and as I say, having a British fighter in there during the business, and you see there's the video of him getting the call to join the UFC went viral on the internet because he was crying when he realised he got his shot in the UFC. That shot came tonight. He won it in impressive fashion, unanimous decision, won all three rounds, won all three scorecards. His career is off and running in the UFC. All credit to the Viking, Brett Johns. We will come back to you after a few more fights, right here on the Brit Pack, live at UFC Fight Night here in Belfast, Northern Ireland. Okay, we're about to kick off the main card here at UFC Fight Night Belfast, and we've had some cracking contests leading in. We've got to talk about the one that we just saw, Sandy. Jack the Hammer Marshman living up to his nickname, second round TKO. Amazing performance from the big Welshman.
Yeah, absolutely. Not just for him, but for Brett Johns. Both Welshmen getting it done on their UFC debuts. Fantastic stuff. Marshall wants to fight in London in March, and I think we'll have a bit of that.
It makes a whole lot of sense, you know. I think this is a guy who's come through the domestic ranks. He's fought for Bama and won a championship, fought for Cage Warriors and won the world championship for them. And he got a bit beat up in that first round, although he did knock Simon and Sandhu down with the very first punch he threw, pretty much. Came back in the second round, loading up on his shots, was more prepared to walk through what Simon and Sandhu had to offer, and stopped him. And the Welsh have got a superstar in their hands. They already knew that. Now the UFC knows that. And I would expect to see him on that London card. Maybe even against someone like Scott Aston. That would make a whole lot of sense. England versus Wales. I can see that fight being made. Aston, of course, fought Magnus Sandhu a while ago. It's worth noting, Sandhu was in good form going into this 4-fight win streak. Looking pretty awkward to deal with. Big, long, durable guy. Marshall puts him away inside 2 rounds. That's a big statement from Jack the Hammer Marshall. We've got the main card kicking off now, Sandhu.
Yep.
Some big fights on this card, obviously none more so than the middleweight contender fight. It's going to be the main event. But let's talk about what's next. Artem Lobov versus Teruto Ishihara. We've been looking forward to this one all week.
Yeah, I mean, the Russian Hammer, the Siberian Express, Artem Lobov. We've got Conor McGregor in the building. He's been walking in and out the arena all night long, getting some fantastic pops and cheers from the crowd, obviously. And Teruto Ishihara, what a character. These are the kind of characters that you look forward to covering in this sport. Very unique, and we'll see what happens. I mean, I think everyone's pretty much picking Ishihara to beat Lobov, but you just never know. I mean, with the backing of the Irish here in Belfast, that might just kind of give Lobov the 10% he needs to get the job done. But the one thing I do want to say, going back to the prelim card, is Kevin Lee talking about a tough assignment. Kevin Lee had a really tough assignment in Mustaev, and he got the job done. Not only to get the job done in an emphatic fashion, but he then went and cut a promo on Conor McGregor and the Irish. Great stuff. Obviously got an emotional reaction from the crowd who were booing him, but that's what you've got to do in the UFC. You don't want to be indifferent. You either want the fans to love you or hate you, but you never want to be indifferent. So well done Kevin Lee for that one.
And a word from Dan the Outlaw Hardy, who's working as the colour commentator and analyst. gets in the octagon to do the interviews, and he's had to deal with a little bit tonight. Amanda Cooper said that she was hoping she would talk to Joe Rogan, a bit harsh. Then he went in there with Horiguchi, and there was no interpreter for the first part of the interview. Had to wait for that. That was all a little bit tricky. Kevin Lee didn't want to answer any questions, just wanted to drop F-bombs and call out Conor McGregor. Yeah. So in terms of what Dan Hardy's had to do in the octagon, that man needs to be shown a little bit more love. I think the fighters will do that in this main card. 4 fights coming up. Yeah. Artem Lobov versus Teruto Ishihara is next. Then Timothy Johnson versus Alexander Volkov in a heavyweight contest. Then the co-main event, the Battle of Britain, Ross the Real Deal Pearson taking on Stevie Braveheart Ray, or Stevie Effin Ray if you're being accurate with these things, in a lightweight contest in the co-main event. And then the big one, the main event, Gegard Mousasi taking on Uriah Hall. Hall knocked out Gegard Mousasi, spinning back kick and punches, finished him off in Saitama last year. Mousasi said it was a fluke. He's going to prove that tonight. Will we see it? We will find out in just a matter of minutes. It's going to be an exciting one. We will report back as the fights progress right here at UFC Fight Night Belfast. Alright, we're back after a quite incredible fight between Artem Lobov and Teruto Ishihara. Amazing fight, amazing ovation. Lobov was basically the hometown hero right here in Belfast. The crowd raised the roof. Conor McGregor was just over the cage from us, barking out orders throughout the fight. He even jumped the cage once the fight was finished to celebrate with his training partner. The crowd loved it. Amazing fight, back and forth contest. Lobov bossed it low from start to finish. Basically beat Teruto Ishihara up 3 rounds. Ishihara stayed there. Great performance from Lobov low. The best of his UFC career, Sandhu.
I agree, that was the best Artem's looked in his UFC career so far. He had, like you said, Conor McGregor just zeroed in, laser focused. Probably the only one standing in his section until the rest of the section stand up to watch the fight behind him. And then once the fight was over, stormed the cage, had the bromance moment with his SPG Ireland teammate. And the crowd here throughout the entire fight was just fantastic. Very reminiscent of the Dublin crowd 2014. Now on that night, the crowd was just like hitting a 10 throughout the entire night. I think tonight we've been building up to a crescendo for a big moment. That was the moment. The crowd was just electric, singing and chanting, exactly what you'd expect from this part of the world. And a great moment for Artem Lobov to get his hand raised for victory and have that moment with Conor McGregor with this very partisan crowd.
Awesome performance from Artem Lobov. He looks to have really kicked his game up in another 1 or 2 years. Amazing performance from him. He didn't really bother with a post-fight interview. He just grabbed the microphone and shouted, "The hammer is back." I feel like the Brit Pack is back. We should talk about that. Anyway, Artem Lobov, one of the best performances of the night. We also need to talk about, we talked about Jack Marshall before. We'll talk about Jack Marshall again. Amazing performance from him. The local guys, the people who the fans have come here to see, are producing the goods. Brett Johns winning on his debut. Jack Marshall winning on his debut. Artem Lobov getting the best win of his career. This is a good night for the UK fight fans who have travelled here to the SSC Arena.
Absolutely, and this is what you want. Like we said earlier on in the night, maybe on paper the sexiest card, but these are the fight cards here in Europe where you get interesting stories. You get some of these local heroes, the guys that have worked their way up through the local circuit here in Europe. Give them some time to shine, give them some time and moments in the octagon to put on a performance and hopefully make something of that moment. Shine some personality through. And we've seen that with the Welshman, we've seen that with Artem Lobov. That's certainly secured him at least a few more fights here in the UFC, and we've still got a few more fights to go.
Three more to go. Timothy Johnson versus Alexander Volkov is next. In fact, as we speak, Alexander Volkov is about 20-30 feet away from where we're sat at the prep point, getting ready to enter the octagon. The co-main event, Ross Pearson versus Stevie Ray, will be following that. And then the main event, Gegard Mousasi versus Uriah Prime Time Paul. We will check back in with you after that main event and wrap things up right here at UFC Fight Night in Belfast. Alright, we're back. We have just had our co-main event in the evening, and we see weird scoring in MMA sometimes. And we see very close fights. With a 10-point must system, it is very close. We saw a bizarre set of scorecards here. Stevie Ray and Ross Pearson. It was nip and tuck all the way through. You could have scored it either way. All three judges scored it 30-27. Two of them scored it 30-27 for Stevie Ray. 30-27 for Ross Pearson. Remarkable. For the record, I had it for Pearson 29-28. But if you'd have turned to me and said, Si, I've got it 29-28 to Ray, you know, I wouldn't argue with it. It was that close. But 3-30-27 to the split decision, that's bizarre.
Yeah, it certainly is. I would have been happy with a 29-28 either way. The two judges that scored at 30-27 for Stevie Ray, I don't know what they were watching with regards to giving him every single round. And adversely, the judge that gave 30-27 for Pearson, I don't know what fight he was watching either. I feel for Stevie Ray, it was good to get back on the winning track here. It was important for him to get back into the win column after suffering his very first loss in the UFC. But for Ross Pearson, that's his now third loss in a row. The very first time in his career. That's 7 losses in his last 11. I know we got the London card around the corner. I'm not sure if the UFC will keep him around though. I'm really not sure. With a record like that, 9 times out of 10, you're cut for the UFC. But he is one of those fighters that's been a favourite of Dana White for quite some time. So maybe they'll give him another shot, maybe in London next year.
Yeah, and it's another interesting twist with this is, we've seen this before, but Ross was in there fighting. The sack just hung away from us. This is what? Christy Pearson. He's one of the Octagon girls here today.
Literally just feet, about 10 feet away from us right now.
And she tweeted as soon as the scorecards were announced, how come one judge scored 30-27 one way and another scored 30-27 the other way? It's just a strange sport at times, MMA. But the end result is, you know, whatever the binaries of the scoring, Ross Pearson has fallen to his third consecutive loss. He's an exciting fighter that the fans enjoy watching fight. Be very interested to see what the UFC decide to do. From a British perspective, obviously we would like to stay around. Maybe that London card would be the opportunity for him to bounce back. But who knows? We'll have to wait and see what happens with Ross the Real Deal Pearson. That was the co-main event. We've got one more fight left, Sandhu.
One final fight from a 13-fight card, and it's Mousasi, Uriah Hall 2, the rematch. And that's coming up here in a matter of minutes. So let's give our predictions, Si. Mousasi Hall, who you got and how?
I think Mousasi wins it inside 2 rounds by TKO stoppage. I think Mousasi knows he needs to bully Uriah Hall. He could do it by submission actually, but I think it'll be done on the floor and he'll beat him ground and pound, having taken him down, work a position and mash him up with elbows. That's what I think will happen. Uriah Hall always dangerous on his feet. Mousasi knows that better than anybody right now. He'll look to close that distance, get in the pocket, hit him with his hands, get him to the back, and then finish him on the ground. And I think he'll get it done. Round 2, maybe round 3. That's my prediction.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. I think Mousasi takes it maybe in the 2nd or 3rd round by knockout TKO. Almost over a year ago, Hall beat Mousasi, but hasn't had a good 2016. Lost back-to-back, whereas Mousasi bounced back from that loss and won 3 in a row. He's the man in form. He's the man that's broken into the top 5 of the UFC middleweight division. And I think for him, this is just to kind of get it off his back, get that loss off his record, score the first fight as a null and void by getting a win back over Uriah Hall, so he can crack on and head towards that middleweight title. I like Mousasi here. I think he's finally getting into the form of his career, even though he's a veteran of the sport and had 30-40 odd fights. So yeah, I'm picking Mousasi by 2nd or 3rd round TKO knockout.
So what that probably means then is that Uriah Hall's going to win by knockout.
Probably, yeah.
The way these predictions are going. But that is our main event. That will be coming up next. And after the conclusion of the main event, we will do our best to get a very quick bit done. But what we will also do is we'll head back to the press room and try and get a little bit of post-fight reaction there and wrap things up after a very fun fight week here at UFC Fight Night in Belfast. And the lights have just dropped. That means it's time for the main event. Sandhu.
I like it.
How does he like his donuts? We're jamming.
We're jamming.
Well, there we go. In a rare moment of clarity, we got a prediction right. Gegard Mousasi went in there and just put a beating on Uriah Hall. Did what we said he was going to do, closed the distance, got his hands on him, took him to the mat and smashed him until Martin Goddard stopped the fight. Clinical, calm, collected. He's back in a championship conversation right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think this fight was going to do anything either which way in regards to the title picture. I think for him it was to keep busy, stay busy. It's a main event slot at the end of the day in Europe against a recognisable named opponent in Uriah Hall. It was a chance for him to get some revenge. He did that. That kind of win that Uriah Hall got on Mousasi last year sort of like expunged now as far as Mousasi is concerned, and now he can really move on, look ahead. I think for him it'll be a number one contender fight that he'll be looking for next. Maybe a Chris Weidman, not Chris Weidman, maybe a Jacare Souza or a Luke Rockhold. That would make most sense. And perhaps maybe just put him on the same card as Bisping Romero, just in case something happens to Romero in that main event, that kind of fight. But look, Mousasi had one objective on his mind this week. Can't come in, beat Uriah Hall in the main event slot, get the job done. He's got the job done, and that's it. That's the final UFC event wrapped up for 2016, Simon.
It's been a great year. It's been a great year. We've been to some great arenas, seen some great fights, and that last one there wasn't too bad. I mean, Gegard Mousasi, who over the course of the year has grown into one of the real characters in the UFC.
He really has.
This was a guy who previously said very little. Viewed the media with a little bit of disdain almost, and the fact, the fact that we were asking him questions was a bit of an annoyance to him. He doesn't want to answer. He doesn't want to deal with us. Now, we've got to get on all right. Gegard likes us, we like him. We ask him questions, he gives us honest answers, and that's brought him up now. And he's now a bigger personality. People are now paying more attention to what he's doing. And on top of everything else, he's a world-class fighter and a world championship caliber fighter. So he just needed to turn the corner. He had that loss to Uriah Hall last September in Saitama, and he's been trying to find his way back ever since. And his performance has been getting better and better and better. He's put Uriah Hall away. He's buried the ghost of what happened in Japan last year. Next fight for him, I agree with what he said. He needs to have a championship contenders fight. For me, I will put him against Luke Rockhold. Stylistically, I think that's an awesome matchup. I think the winner of that fight against the winner of Bisping and Romero makes total sense right now.
And if they're not going to put him in the same card as Romero Bisping, we've got London, England as the first European UFC event of 2017, which is about 4 or 5 months away from now. Gegard Mousasi versus Luke Rockhold, the main event of the London card. That'll do very nicely.
I'm not hating on that idea. That'd be a great idea.
No, but like you said, it's fantastic to see Mousasi do a complete 180, not just with the media and with his interview skills and some of the mic drop moments he's had this year, but his performances in the Octagon as well. He's a man in form in the middleweight division, outside of course of the champion Michael Bisping.
Absolutely. That pretty much wraps things up from Octagonside. We're going to dash off now to the press conference, get ourselves set, talk to the fighters at the press conference, and wrap things up after the final UFC event on this side of the pond here in 2016. That was UFC Fight Night in Belfast. We will talk to you from the press room in a few minutes' time.
There you have it, a packed night from the SSE Arena and some great performances, most notably from the two Welsh boys, Brett Johns and Jack Marshman, from Artem Lobov and also from Gegard Mousasi, who is right back in that middleweight championship picture. After recording our stuff from Cageside, we hot-footed it back to the media tent outside the SSE Arena for the post-fight press conference, where we grabbed a quick word with UFC boss James Elliott to find out what's coming down the line in Europe next year, and also with Artem Lobov, who told us about that moment with Conor McGregor after his fight. Check him out here.
Question for James. It's been a big year for the UFC in Europe and your team in particular. We had the huge event with Michael Bisping in Manchester. Obviously, we've had a huge success tonight and all the previous European nights. What's the next thing for you guys next year in terms of putting on a big superstar show? Is it bringing a world championship pay-per-view level show to European time? Is it bringing more World Championship fights at US time to this continent? What's the next stage in the development for the UFC in Europe next year?
I think a combination of the two, to be honest. Look, we're very confident in the abilities of not only the team to deliver those kind of events, but also the markets to support them. So, you look at the way the markets have grown over the course of the last 2 to 3 years, and we're in a completely different level to where we have been. So as long as that continues, it makes my case a lot easier every time we go and start discussing where to put these fights. The fact that we've got more European champions now than we've ever had before means that those conversations are also easier to have. So if we can bring some big level of events, if we can get the right pieces to fall in the right place, then we're definitely looking to bring the biggest events we possibly can to this region and particularly to these markets where we've been so successful over the course of the last 2 years. So it's definitely something we're looking at. It's a complicated business, but not altogether. But if we can do, there's no limit to our ambition for these markets. So we're going to keep pushing as hard as we can.
Question for Artem. From our position, press row, we could just see Conor standing up, laser focused, looking at your fight the entire fight. Did you know he was standing up, looking at you? Could you hear him shouting, actions and directions and advice throughout the fight?
Yeah, absolutely. I could see him, and I even turned around and acknowledged him between the rounds. It was great having him there. It felt just like on The Ultimate Fighter. It was a great moment.
What was it like when he rushed the octagon, and obviously you had a moment in the octagon and also outside, kind of cheering to the crowds there?
He wasn't going to do it, I don't think, but I just kept screaming at him, jump that fence, jump it. And he was like kind of debating whether to do it, but I just kept hitting the fence and saying, jump that fucking fence, jump it now. Because I wanted to celebrate, his win, I wanted to celebrate my win, and it was just a great moment.
Does that make up for not being there with him in New York last week?
Well, I'm not sure if anything can make up for me missing, that historical moment, but in some ways it does, yeah.
Okay, that's us just about done, but before we go, I noticed we had a few unanswered questions sitting in our Twitter mentions, so I'll do a very quick solo Q&A to round things up. Don't forget, you can tweet me at Simon Head and Sandhu at Sandhu MMA if you want to just get in touch with us outside of the show, but if you want questions for the show for us to answer here on the podcast, tweet us at the show's account at the Brit Pack MMA. First off, RG asks, was Francimar Barroso's reaction to the accidental clash of heads more Brazilian footballer than Brazilian light heavyweight? The short answer is yes. I think he made more of it than he should. The big thing here is whatever happens in the fight, you're told, the very first thing you're told, protect yourself at all times. You've got to be on it from the minute you step in the cage to the minute the fight is finished. It's the referee's job to judge whether there's been a clash of heads or an eye poke or a nut shot or a foul. Whatever it is, the referee deals with that. If the referee doesn't do anything, you've got to carry on. So I think the situation there with Barroso, you just got to grin and get on with it. You just got to grit your teeth, bite down and crack on. He lost the fight. And from a British perspective, that's obviously a positive because he lost to a Brit, Darren Stewart. Great performance from him. UFC debut, undefeated, TKO finish. Doesn't get much better than that for the dentist. I hope we get to see a fair bit more of him next year. There's a show coming up in London in March. Seems like a no-brainer to me. Let's get him back over here fighting on home soil. We had to go into the Lions Den for his debut. Let's get him back over here. Get the dentist on that London card. I'd love to see it. James Gloyn has tweeted us to ask, are you going to mention Bellator on this week's podcast, with Bellator 165 not being shown in the UK until Saturday? First off, no, we're not. This is the only mention it's going to get. We're not going to spoil any results on the podcast. It hasn't been shown in the UK yet. That actually answers another question. John Todd tweeted us to ask any info on when we will be able to see Bellator 165 in the UK. The answer is Saturday, November the 26th. 10 p.m. on Spike. So if you've got Spike, I don't unfortunately, but if you do, if you've got Spike, happy days. You can sit yourself down and watch Bellator 165, 10 o'clock on Saturday, November the 26th. And final question, also from James Gloyn. I think he asked us this in the aftermath of UFC 205. Who do you think would win between Conor McGregor and Khabib Nurmagomedov? that's the question I want answered. I want to know who is going to win between Conor McGregor and Khabib Nurmagomedov. I think this is a fight that has to happen. I think Khabib is the number one guy to fight him next. I know Nate Diaz is probably going to get that fight next. It's a trilogy fight. It's the biggest money fight available, and that makes the most sense from a money-making perspective. But from a sporting perspective, Conor McGregor is the lightweight champion of the world. He needs to defend that lightweight belt against the next best guy. And the next best guy right now is 24-0, Khabib Nurmagomedov. As for who wins, I think McGregor has got all the tools to win the fight standing up. I think if he can keep it on the outside and keep Khabib on the end of his punches, then I think he stops him, no problem at all. Maybe 2-3 rounds, but I think he'll get it done. Nurmagomedov, meanwhile, if he can close the distance, get in range and get his hands on McGregor, I think he can get him to the mat and finish him on the floor. So I think it's a real coin flip fight. A lot of these fights, when you got two guys at the absolute top of the game going against each other, the deciding factor is often range. Whoever controls that controls the fight. And when you've got a clash of styles like this, striker versus grappler, then range has never been more important. So Khabib wants to close that gap, get his hands on him. Conor will want to keep it at distance and pepper him with strikes, kicks, punches, and look to catch Khabib as he looks to cross into no man's land and look to get his hands on him. So it's a coin flip fight for me. I think Khabib can certainly beat McGregor. I think if I was putting money on any lightweight in the world to beat Conor, Khabib will be the guy. But do I think Conor can beat Khabib? Absolutely. I'm done with doubting Conor McGregor now. I backed, I didn't put money down, but I predicted Nate Diaz would beat Conor McGregor the second time round, and McGregor absolutely did a job on him. I thought it was a superb performance. I know it was a close fight, but the difference in Conor McGregor in the second fight to the first fight was immense, and that shows you that not only is he a very talented fighter, but him and his camp know how to game plan. They know how to improve where they need to improve, and I think against someone like Khabib, I think he'll come in there ready. If you put a gun to my head, I'd probably lean towards Conor, but right now I think it's a coin flip. Khabib has got everything in the toolbox to beat Conor McGregor. I think it's a 50-50 fight, and it's one that I really do want to see in 2017. That wraps up the outstanding questions that we had on our Twitter feed. We would love a load more to be in there by the time we sit down to record the next one. So please do tweet us at the Brit Pack MMA with all your MMA related questions, and we will do our best to answer as many of them as possible on next week's show. That pretty much wraps things up. That was show number 17 of the Brit Pack. We'll be back next week with number 18. Please do follow us on Twitter. I'm at Simon Head. Sandhu is at Sandhu MMA. And the main Twitter for the show is at the Brit Pack MMA. And as I said just a minute ago, that's the account to tweet if you want any questions for the show. The main place to get the show is our new website, which is at thebritpackmma.com. Go there, check out the website. We've got blogs on there. We've got all the shows on there. Information on how to subscribe is on there too. If you're an iTunes user, you can subscribe via iTunes. Please do rate us, review us. Leave us a little review, that would be lovely. If you don't use iTunes, then you can get us on Stitcher. You can also get us on Acast, and we're also on SoundCloud as well. So if you've got the SoundCloud app, you can follow us on SoundCloud and get all the shows as they go live. That is pretty much all we've got for you this week. As I say, we'll be back next week with show number 18. Thank you all for listening, hope you enjoyed it, and we'll speak to you again next week.